The portrait was never just a portrait. It was the hidden evidence of a royal erasure that lasted 25 years inside Windsor Castle. For decades, Princess Diana's face was kept away from the Hall of Matriarchs, the ceremonial wall reserved for the women who shaped the modern monarchy, while Queen Camilla moved deeper into the spaces Diana once occupied. That missing frame was not decoration. It was a clue. Foreign leaders, prime ministers, palace guests, and royal insiders walked past that wall for years, seeing every honored woman except the one the public mourned most fiercely after August 1997. And the most dangerous question was never why Diana's portrait disappeared. It was who benefited from keeping it in darkness. The painting had been created when Diana stood at the height of her public power, when her image carried more emotional force than almost anyone inside the royal family could control. She reportedly saw the finished work before her death, and the silence around her reaction mattered because it suggested recognition, not vanity. This was not a forgotten object. It had been intended for Windsor Castle's Hall of Matriarchs, a place of royal symbolism, legacy, and institutional memory. But after Diana died, while flowers piled outside palace gates and Britain grieved in a way the monarchy could not fully manage, the portrait was quietly removed from consideration and placed into storage. No dramatic announcement, no public explanation, just disappearance. That disappearance becomes darker when placed beside what insiders claimed happened inside palace walls after Diana's death. Before the country had even processed the loss, whispers allegedly turned toward practical concerns, including the whereabouts of crown jewelry that had been in Diana's possession. That detail is chilling, because it reveals a temperature inside the institution that felt colder than the national grief outside. The public saw mourning. The palace handled inventory. And in that gap between emotion and control, the first signs of Diana's posthumous erasure began. Her image, her belongings, her rooms, her flowers, and finally her rightful place on the wall all became part of something bigger. Then there was Camilla Parker Bowles, the woman Diana had once called the Rottweiler, the woman at the center of the most painful sentence Diana ever gave the nation. There were 3 people in that marriage. After Diana was gone, Camilla did not simply enter royal life. According to the story, she entered Diana's spaces and began changing what remained. Diana's fresh flowers, chosen personally for royal residences, were allegedly removed and burned. Her bedroom, where she had held Prince William and Prince Harry, was reportedly locked permanently instead of being repurposed. That choice did not feel like moving forward. It felt like sealing a witness room. The removal of Diana's presence was not loud enough to become a scandal, and that is exactly why it became powerful. One frame shifted. Another photograph disappeared. A personal object moved. A room closed. A wall stayed incomplete. By the time anyone could point to a pattern, the pattern had already become the new normal. Camilla gained comfort. Diana lost visibility. The institution gained silence. And Prince William learned one of the hardest lessons of royal survival. Inside the palace, truth does not always win by being shouted. Sometimes it waits until the rules can be used against the people who once used them first. William was only 15 on September 6, 1997, when he walked behind Diana's coffin through London in front of the world. But he was not a child who understood nothing. Diana had already told him about Charles and Camilla. He knew the shape of the betrayal before the world watched him bury his mother. Prince Harry learned differently, reportedly asking who Camilla was when her name appeared on television during a program about the monarchy. Diana had to explain the truth to her younger son without preparation. 2 brothers received the same wound through different doors, but William's wound hardened into something colder, quieter, and far more strategic. The Lord Mishcon note made that wound even more complicated. 2 years before Diana died, she wrote that she feared her husband could arrange her death in a staged car accident involving brake failure and serious injury. The official inquiry found no evidence of conspiracy, but that does not erase the emotional fact that Diana was frightened enough to put those fears in writing. The note later reached police, and the delay before Scotland Yard examined it became another unanswered shadow over the story. William eventually knew about that letter. He knew what his mother feared. He knew what happened in Paris. And he watched the Hall of Matriarchs stay empty where her face should have been. But William was not the only royal carrying a Camilla wound. Princess Anne's wound went back even further, before Diana, before the royal marriage collapsed, Before Britain watched two women become symbols of loyalty and intrusion. Anne had once been close to Andrew Parker Bowles. Marriage had reportedly been discussed, but the institution blocked it because Andrew was Catholic and Anne, as a senior royal tied to the Church of England, was not allowed to marry him. She stepped aside because duty demanded it. Then, Andrew married Camilla in 1973, and Anne sat in the pews watching the man she had been denied marry the woman who came after her. That is why Anne's silence was never weakness. It was storage. She did not leak. She did not perform outrage. She did not create palace drama. She filed everything away. Andrew Parker Bowles, Camilla's rise, Diana's destruction, the locked rooms, the burned flowers, the missing portrait, the coronation at Westminster Abbey in May 2023, and the crown finally placed near the woman she had never fully accepted. Biographers have long suggested Camilla felt intimidated by Anne, and that makes sense, because Anne's coldness was not theatrical. It was worse. It was correct manners without warmth for 50 years. After the coronation, Anne reportedly told Camilla privately that she was not the queen, only the king's wife, and the story claimed Anne had never bowed to her once. Whether spoken in a room or carried through staff whispers, the meaning was unmistakable. Anne did not see Camilla's title as moral victory. She saw it as institutional permission, not personal absolution. And while Camilla gained rank, Anne and William watched the same absence remain fixed inside Windsor Castle. Diana was still missing from the Hall of Matriarchs. The wall still told an edited story. The debt was still unpaid. And then, after 25 years, William made the phone call that changed everything. William's call to Princess Anne lasted only moments, but neither of them needed a long conversation because the decision had already been made years earlier. Every meeting with curators, every review of historical placement records, every protocol check surrounding the Hall of Matriarchs had been completed long before that evening. William was not planning a symbolic gesture. He was constructing a move that could never be reversed. He reportedly ensured every historical precedent supported Diana's return, leaving no administrative loophole, no procedural objection, and no institutional excuse for anyone to quietly remove the portrait again. Anne reportedly replied with only a few words, telling William that Diana deserved to come home. He answered simply that tomorrow she would. After decades of silence, two people carrying separate wounds reached complete understanding without needing speeches. The timing itself immediately became another clue. Camilla was scheduled to spend the day away from London on an official engagement. According to the story, that diary placement was no coincidence. By the time she returned, everything would already be complete. The Hall of Matriarchs was quietly closed except for a carefully selected group of trusted staff, experienced curators, and palace officials who understood both the historical importance and the discretion required. No press office prepared a statement, no photographer documented the occasion, no announcement appeared on the official royal diary. That silence suggested the objective was never public celebration. The objective was permanence, before anyone could interfere. Late that afternoon, the portrait emerged from the storage room, where it had reportedly remained hidden for more than 25 years. Those present allegedly watched staff carry it with extraordinary care, almost as though they were handling something that had already suffered enough. Protective wrapping covered every inch until the painting entered the Hall of Matriarchs itself. Princess Anne chose to attend personally, despite having no formal responsibility in the operation. William had already completed every legal and ceremonial requirement. Anne could have stayed home and learned about the result later. Instead, after carrying decades of private resentment, she reportedly wanted to witness Diana's return with her own eyes. When the wrapping finally came away, the gallery reportedly fell silent. Anne was no longer looking at a public icon or an international celebrity. She was looking at the woman she had watched enter the family, struggle inside the institution, raise William and Harry, endure public humiliation, and ultimately leave the monarchy forever through tragedy. Curators measured the frame repeatedly because precision inside the Hall of Matriarchs allowed no mistakes. Less than 2 hours after the painting entered the gallery, Diana's portrait reportedly stood beside Queen Elizabeth, exactly where supporters believed it had always belonged. Nobody applauded. Nobody delivered speeches. The silence itself became the ceremony. Then came the sentence that, according to palace whispers, changed everything. Princess Anne reportedly looked toward the completed wall and quietly said, "Diana belongs here. She always did." Those 5 words immediately transformed the story. Anne did not say Diana deserved the honor. She did not say history had been corrected. She spoke in the present tense, as though the previous 25 years had simply delayed something that had never truly changed. Staff members nearby reportedly remembered every word because they knew Anne almost never spoke emotionally inside palace walls. When someone who had spent decades saying almost nothing finally spoke, every syllable carried unusual weight. Camilla reportedly returned from her engagement completely unaware that Windsor Castle had changed forever in her absence. The following morning, she discovered the portrait hanging inside the Hall of Matriarchs and allegedly reacted with immediate fury. She demanded the painting be removed. She reportedly requested an emergency meeting with Prince William. She wanted King Charles to intervene personally. She also demanded the identities of every staff member involved in the installation. According to the account, each request was refused. That final refusal may have been the most significant because it suggested palace officials were protecting the people who had carried out William's decision instead of protecting Camilla's authority. For perhaps the first time since entering royal life, she reportedly found herself unable to reshape the institution around her own preferences. But the greatest surprise allegedly came from King Charles himself. Throughout decades of criticism, Charles had consistently defended Camilla against public anger, institutional resistance, and even opposition from William and Harry. This time, however, the story claims he remained silent. He reportedly made no phone call ordering the portrait removed. He issued no instruction reversing William's decision. He allowed the painting to remain exactly where his eldest son had placed it. That silence carried enormous symbolic weight because, as sovereign, Charles possessed the authority to intervene. Instead, according to the narrative, he permitted William's carefully prepared decision to stand untouched. Whether motivated by institutional responsibility, personal reflection, or something deeper, that silence reportedly left Camilla facing consequences without the protection she had long expected. As whispers spread through Windsor Castle and beyond, one question began echoing through palace corridors. Had Diana merely been restored to a wall? Or had William quietly announced that the balance of power inside the House of Windsor had already begun shifting long before the crown would ever pass to the next king?